sharing today about human communication and divine messages in my body, and also from Jung, becoming who you really are, which is wound or initiation, and finishing up with also how the mouth is basically like mouth or wound, mother wound, like that. So starting with human communication, we communicate mostly with our mouth, but not necessarily. So we send out our vibe, like the frequency, and it matches up. For example, person A says, I need X, I can offer Y. B says, I need Y, I can offer X. So this plus this equals check, right? And then A and B says, I am blank because of either yes or no. And then either it's a check or it's a not. Or it's like divided, like there's a separation. So A plus B is basically we communicate, we come, unite, kind of, is how someone I know says it. There's a call and response, there's tone, questions, pauses, a natural ebb and flow, and conversation. And we can call it and it doesn't always have to be a verbal conversation. It could be movement, could be eye contact, could be the way the body language is showing. And that's what it's called, language, body language. We call in what we would need to resolve our tension, and that's the medicine of balance. It's not anything that will create more tension, and just possible to enjoy friction when we look at it like other, right? We're always recalibrating, seesawing, sharing. There's a natural nullification of the light between, like, frequencies. But when we talk about friction, we say something like, for sex, higher tension is better. So think of like foreplay makes more tension, mystery makes more tension, desire is more tension, rubber band is like tension, tension, tension. And so this is really how we get further away without detaching. There's less familiarity and comfort if we can maintain the separation, and this is for arousal. So I was thinking about people in my life, for example, Panina. She didn't respect my privacy or space. I felt like invaded. It almost reminded me of an image of when I was a child, like hiding under the table and being feeling like invaded, like someone coming in, like, even though it was clearly like me needing the space. And I remember this man named Matthew who was attached because he needed the role to help more than his own recovery. And then I remember I didn't believe I had anyone else to go with Adam, and he took advantage. Like, I didn't think there was anyone to trust. And then there was this woman named Joan. She held space for me. She didn't abuse her power when I had no one else. I really opened up to her about some things about myself. My brother Levi loved me even though it felt like he couldn't show it and didn't know how to express it. And then going into divine messages, like communication from our divine self, I thought about there was 3 people I knew from a place where I was connected to different people. So there was 2 people I met. This is like actually the beginning of coronavirus. They would be near the park. One of them, her name is Michelle, I actually saw her yesterday. She said some people stay behind just for the memory. And we have to remember that we're also the temperature. The warm and cold is us. And she told me I'm in the mother line, which is number 8. And this is the power of the sea, the earth, and the wisdom from heaven. And what's interesting is I just read from the Zohar today about the water, the light, and the firmament. Anyway, she said, pressure and gravity is my precious steam. And that prostitution, lesbianism, all this kind of stuff is very bad. Then there was a man named Sarata. We had a couple conversations. And one of our conversations, he said, smallness is supportive and privacy. There's nothing wrong with someone being a supporter, someone being supported. And we cannot show ourselves to everyone. And at the same time, we can have a big family, which is like community. And fun is to be in occupation with ease, in the present now. Another time I spoke with him, he said, always being present with the unity drive is how we have this, like, can use the thorn to take out the thorn, and rather when we deem it as bad, it makes it painful. And we all have different versions of our culture, which is the belief system, the propaganda. And we have to remember, where is their thought parasites, not just food or social directions, but that's why, like, Shabbos for me is so important as a day of silence, as like a reset or a day of rest. And not everyone is quiet on Shabbos, but we are supposed to, like, be more conscious about our words. And then I had to talk with Joseph about, discussing values and direction, not rushing. For example, I mentioned sex earlier for the tension, not rushing to neutralize the tension, like being okay with being able to even listen without interrupting is to be able to be okay with tension, and versus being encouraging like what God wants for them. And there's something in the 12 steps which a lot of people are familiar with, which is called the 4th step, and this is categorizing, and this can be helpful for ourselves. So when I look at my body as another kind of communication, I look at it as like recalibrating, a gift, a partner, a protector, best friend, lover, private pharmacy, private like my own self. It's also a pharmacy, it's a mother, a temple, an art, life, child, timeless, feminine, womb, nature, cave, sexual being, creative, organic, free, gravity, self-healing, fluid, evolving, precious, independent, autonomous, and intimate. And I'm going to share a little bit about Jung on individuation, but I'll also be sharing more about this in the next video. But anyway, so Robert Bosnack, who's a Jungian psychologist, and this is on the topic of becoming who you really are. Like, if we're going to communicate, we have to be the real us, like communicating from the real self or showing up as the real self. So zeitgeist is like being embodied by the spirit of the times. It's an agent is time, and we're the responder, the passive. The time comes through us. It's like the times. In Yiddish, we say mit the Zeit, like with the time. So dual consciousness is 1, embodying loneliness, fatigue, rage, dread, lack of touch, horror, overthinking. Basically, it's the way of the limbic system, the amygdala. And 2 is awareness of it that is embodying me. We can feel what the time is like by the way of me without being in it. Like being able to respond to the chaos and darkness by being creative and inspired about going in a new direction. For example, I would say an example that comes to mind is someone I know close to me. His name is Eliezer. He tells me, you're being hurricane. He said Hurricane Shane is something. And I thought, I didn't like it because I'm not the hurricane. I'm going through maybe an emotional storm at that time. Anyway, so the dream is the reaction to the past and anticipating the future. This interactive dance of waking consciousness and the dream gives us valuable insights. In dreams, we can go to places most unrecognizable, unfamiliar to the ego, which wants to stay safe in what we know. And then the cross is like, why have you forsaken me? Feeling betrayed by the world, cannot be sure about being resurrected, can't go back to habitual consciousness, which we inherently want to preserve. We naturally resist going back out of the comfort zone, and there's this elasticity, right? That's why I said cross, like we have to cross over ourselves, like this subconscious and unconscious, subconscious and conscious, and there's this elasticity and adaptability which comes from like keeping space for contrast. And creative spirits presents as anything. It's always an opportunity, even with disgust or terror. Like we resist it when it's like snakes or poop asking for attention, but then it won't be grounded. We have to work in it and not be so dissociated so we could turn it into compost, right? And like the snake itself has a role when we look at the ecosystem, and destruction is required. In other words, like we could stay with what is, more things that are no longer, and this can become the energy that we have to do something, anything fruitful, like hurry slowly, like urgency, importance. And when we think about the communications, like the being difficult to swallow is because there's a lot to digest there. It's like hard to swallow, like as something we say casually, and we're most afraid when of the indivisible, of the invisible. Being able to be reachful and compassionate gives us more stretch, and that's also being part of the collective, because when we resist or fight or flight or freeze, it's causing fatigue. And vitrification is another aspect, which is like when we turn to glass, we could shatter. It's like freeze, right? And then there's the placebo effect, which is body as a pharmacy. It can produce whatever's needed. We just need to trigger it to produce it. And finally, I want to talk like a little more literally about mother wound, like mouth wound, to do with communication. So ugly speech is an addiction. Like we have to ask for the ability to know when we're full. And this is when we didn't have healthy boundaries. And there's an attachment to harmful behavior sometimes. It could be like eating garbage, kind of like eating the wrong food and regurgitating, like speaking I, me, mine, my, too much, not enough silence or quiet, maybe over talking or oversharing, smoking, drinking pills, nitpicking, judging, gossiping, being mean and hurtful, speaking wickedly. We have to remember words have tremendous power, and to create, construct, destroy, and it's a gift of godly channeling to be able to use speech. So we don't have to consume anything that doesn't nourish, nurture, or soothe. And we can remember mana. Mana was like the pure good, nothing to eliminate, no waste there. And how our vocalizations could be for catharsis and not repressing that which needs to be set free. And even that includes saying no when we need to. Our breath and voice plus voice is like channeling the feminine of the masculine and the masculine of the feminine, because it's like the anima and the animus. To unify with the other and complement, we can bring breath into our voice. When we communicate, we can be with presence, with spirit. And realizing that giving our conversation is giving tremendous care, and it should never be something devalued, even if it's free, even if we just talk freely or we give it, we share that way. Hope you enjoyed this topic. Be well. Bye.